welcome to Family Business World. I'm your host, Dr. Dale Caldwell, and we're honored to have Nick Rafanello, someone I just met. So welcome.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, welcome to the show. And so they have an amazing family business, and so it's Eastern Janitorial Company. Okay, perfect. And so I always like to hear origins, and so what's the history of the company, and where did you grow up, and how early did you get involved in the company?
Sure. So the company started in 1977 with my father.
Oh, nice.
He actually went through a series of life events which kind of took him off track.
Okay.
And then through starting to have a family, realized he needed to make some extra money.
Okay.
And so he started working part-time for someone.
Okay.
And then one day realized, hey, they're actually making decent money here.
Right.
Maybe I should try and start my own company. And the company then, he left and started, kind of building his own account base.
Oh, nice.
Right about the time I was born.
Okay.
And so we grew up in the business.
Yes.
My brother and I, we were always, in the summers helping him out.
Yeah.
He always took us around. It was great. It was like his pride and joy to show his customers, hey, here's my boys.
Right. How early did you start? How old were you when you first?
As long as I can remember, I remember going to see some of my customers, or some of my dad's customers.
Yeah.
But I had this kind of interest always. I was fixing vacuums for him.
Okay. Oh, really?
At
Wow.
like 4 and 5 years old.
Wow,
It was
really?
it was so neat to kind of figure out a puzzle. I always had this kind of mind that fixed things. And,
interesting.
So loved the business. He helped us, go to private Catholic school.
Okay.
Go to college.
Okay.
And after college, he encouraged my brother and I to go out and have careers.
Right. Okay.
And then over time, though, I said, as seeing an entrepreneur family, I was always an entrepreneur at heart.
Right.
In high school, I had started businesses, and so after a period of time, I had been married, and I said, I really want to go back to an entrepreneurial lifestyle.
Right.
Why not the family business?
Wonderful.
And
Wonderful.
it was a great jumping point for us.
Well, I've been doing this show for a few years, and one of the things that really comes out of it is that if folks work in the family business when they're young, when they get older, they value it even more. The worst thing you can do is say, well, don't work in the business and I'm going to make you a senior VP and you don't have any connection. Because you value this business in a wonderful way. And it really is just so wonderful just to see how it continues generation after generation. And so your brother is, what's your brother's role in the business?
My brother ended up not coming in.
Oh, he did? Oh, he's not coming in.
He helped in the business, but he's got a great farmer career, and he decided, you know what, he's going to stay on that path. I'm still hopeful at some point, he may decide to come back, because it'd be wonderful to have him.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun. All I could say is it makes you so. I think you just have a different point of view,
right?
Even in the workforce. So
Yes.
when you're working for private enterprise and you're not the owner, you still have that. Every day's a work day.
Right.
Accountability, saving the company money. Waste bothers you.
Right.
Like you said, that kind of fibers you brought up in seeing.
It becomes part of who you are. So now, where did you go to college? Where did you?
I was a Lehigh guy.
Oh, Lehigh,
So
great.
Lehigh.
Lehigh's a wonderful school, and great. Did you do engineering?
Engineering.
Engineering.
Yeah, I was always an engineer. Always liked technology and just kind of how things work. That was the way my brain works. Also went to NYU at night.
Okay.
Afterwards. So
for MBA or?
For MBA, through the Stern program.
Oh, wonderful.
So it was great. I got a good experience on the West Coast and also in the city, but ultimately decided to it was a good time to come back to the family business.
And so, that's what a great background. And also, I find that a lot of the parents, it's important for them to say, go work somewhere else. Instead of saying, you got to come into the family business, you can't, you don't have an option. No, it's better to say, because you bring what you've learned from those other businesses into the business, and that makes the business even stronger. So now, how many employees do you have, and where are your focus primarily, geographically?
Mainly New Jersey.
Okay.
We do work in the city.
Okay.
And Eastern PA. We're continually growing.
Okay.
We're about 250 right now, 250 employees.
Wow, that's great.
And
that's
so
fantastic.
we keep growing. I mean, God's been very good. We lose very few customers.
Wonderful.
Usually it's situational, but not service driven, because all of us are the whole family. It's like a culture.
Yeah.
And even from a family perspective, everyone in the core team is family.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of me saying, calm down. Like, it's not that important.
Right.
We'll get through this. Let's
Right.
not. So it's neat. We've been able to build a group that really treats it like their own. So we're very lucky.
And so, what kinds of businesses are you looking at? Are you schools? Are you business corporations? What kind of what's your client profile?
We do work across the board. So we operate in 3 divisions. We have a cleaning division, which when we were talking before, you had said kind of how did you ever do those guns? Everyone's talking about those guns through COVID.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because we had lots of those even going into COVID because we've been working with hospitals and disinfecting for years.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
And it was no surprise to us. And a matter of fact, we said, we know exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
And all those guns, you were paying $800 for them before COVID, and they were going for like $10,000 on eBay.
Oh, really? Oh, my goodness!
Like,
wow.
Maybe we should stop, but we had go. So we've done a lot of disinfecting, hospital work, private schools. I mean, we're one of the few places around that can offer fingerprinting custodians in private schools.
Okay.
But then all the way through defense contractors, anybody in secure facilities, and then just office and anything 5 days a week, 7 days a week, 24/7. It's no problem for us. Work in the ports. That's our cleaning business.
Oh, really?
We have a flooring business,
okay,
which is really cool. We do all sorts of epoxy floors and polished concrete and terrazzo. So we do terrazzo the way the
So you put the floors down, or
we don't install.
You just clean them?
We maintain them.
Oh, really? Okay.
So we will polish them and make them look brand new. So we've done some really cool things with old stuff that makes it look brand new again.
Oh, very neat. And what's the third division?
A handyman group. So we turn screwdrivers for a lot of folks that either don't have a need for a full-time handyman or they just want it on call, or we can help them off hours.
For a company, kind of a handyman, really, just kind of. Well, that's an interesting angle. And I imagine you got into that because people just needed something, and you said, "Hey, well, this could be a business."
It's great for us. It's great for the customer because they know us, they trust us.
Right.
We know the facility. We already have access, and then it gives us a career path too for our staff.
Yeah.
So if there's someone there who's really good at cleaning, they could be doing floors eventually.
Right.
If they really like the floors but they're handy, they could do the handyman. Or we can find ways to fill their schedule too, because it's the ebbs and flows of business.
Right.
So the janitorial is always kind of there.
Right.
The project work, sometimes it's very hot, sometimes it's cold.
Right.
And so it gives us a portfolio basically to keep everyone busy.
Interesting. And so now, how do you market? I mean, how do you I imagine there's a lot of competition out there. There are a lot of other companies, and so what's your unique selling proposition, or how do you do this? Just word of mouth, or is it?
It's a good question, Dale. It's been, quite honestly, a lot of word of mouth.
Yeah.
We were investing in SEO way back, maybe like a decade ago. But thankfully, we overservice everybody, and we get a lot of referrals.
Wow.
And what's nice is that a lot of times a facility manager or the buyer or the CFO, they'll move around in their career, and they call us as soon as they're in their new home.
Wow. So the biggest problem facing business and society now are employees. And so I can imagine in your business, 250. Are you having challenges finding employees?
It's been tough.
Yeah.
I'd say we're better than most.
Yeah.
We really leverage our network of staff. So when we have a need, we're going to call all of our different people and say, "Do you know somebody?"
Right.
So a lot of warm intros is how we find our people. We're not doing a lot of advertising. We've tried it. We've been just not pleased with the result.
Right.
Where someone may not show up or they don't. So we found just kind of working through our network is big enough now to fill our needs.
Yeah. Interesting.
We're blessed.
Well, I have a foundation, and one of our focuses is really kind of getting people long-term unemployed jobs, and so we've created this thing called the audition training program, where we actually say, "Hey, give Joe 4 hours. If they do a good job there, give them 6 hours. If they yell at the customer, then." Because so often companies, don't want to take the chance on someone full time, but to really do that. And so I don't know if that's the kind of thing you might do in the business, but there's some good people that if you give them a chance, they're hungry and they may have messed up in their life, but then they're good. So
we totally get that, and we've got lots of folks who have kind of their life has taken different directions.
I can imagine. Yeah.
But absolutely very open-minded and a lot of times even they have become kind of stellar employees.
Yeah.
And also pulling in, networks that their background brings too. So absolutely, we've got kind of folks from all different parts.
And that's one of the things with employees is that, so often we think that, if somebody made a mistake, they're going to continue to make the same mistake the rest of their life. But so many people make a mistake, and they come back and they become passionate workers. I wrote a book on influence, and the idea is that we're all products of our influence. When we're born, we're an empty glass, and so things are poured in. And sometimes people have a lot of negative influences poured in their life that they have to get over to get going forward. So I just admire people like you who are major employers. What bothers me, though, is the fact that society doesn't understand how important you are to jobs. You know, that the big businesses and that they pay lobbyists to pay politicians and the family and small businesses who are hiring a lot of people. We saw this during the pandemic, that so many folks were laid off. I mean, the good news is you were probably pretty busy during the pandemic because you were cleaning, you were sanitizing and so on. So you didn't shut down at all during the pandemic.
No, we were full tilt.
Good.
We actually, began to offer other things that we normally wouldn't, like disinfecting items.
Okay.
Like everyone kind of did.
Okay.
But for the most part, our core business was strong straight through.
Okay.
To your point, it's good that we were working and growing when we did, and preparing from a corporate perspective. Kind of, payroll wasn't manual checks.
Right.
It wasn't hand delivered.
Right.
Because if we were doing a lot of the things we were doing maybe 20, 30 years ago.
Right.
We would have had to close our doors,
Right.
unfortunately. I mean, it was that's where a lot of the small businesses really got hurt.
Yeah.
If you're not doing direct deposit, how are you going to pay the folks?
Yeah.
And so we were lucky enough to be a little bit bigger than where if you were in the crosshairs of things getting shut down,
Right.
how do you go virtual?
Right.
And thankfully we were able to continue pretty much in a virtual world.
And government missed a great opportunity. So they gave those pandemic checks. They could have done them through companies and actually paid people, say, hey, we're going to give you money, hire these folks, and pay them for work instead of just being paid to sit home. And that's part of the problem we're dealing with now.
Yeah.
They could have really used nonprofits and for-profits to really increase the work ethic.
Absolutely.
Instead of decrease the work ethic. And,
Yeah.
and it's not a conservative or liberal thing, it's just the facts. And and so we're suffering from that.
I really do hope we learn from it.
I do too.
Like the post-mortem of what could we have done differently if it ever happens again. Because you're right, there's a lot of opportunities to do it better next time.
Yeah, there really are. So now, is your dad still involved, or?
He is in a limited way.
Okay.
Yep, he's still very proud of everything that we do.
Yeah.
The customers still ask how he's doing all the time.
Good.
So we've had 20-year customers.
Wow.
That still, they've known him and they've known me for a very long time.
Wow. And so now is he golfing for a lot of times, but comes in a couple days a week? Is that?
He's never been much of a golfer. He's like the old school entrepreneur where it's just he's got his routine.
Right.
He loves seeing his grandkids. No, he's just family focused.
All right. So what? Speaking of grandkids, the next generation. Now I don't know how old your kids are. Are you kind of grooming them to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. So my son came to work. He still comes to work and helps me out a bunch.
How old is he?
He's 8.
Okay.
So we waited a bit. And then I have a daughter who's 6, and she was really disappointed she didn't get to go to work with Dad.
Right.
And so we created a come to work today with her, and so we gave her all sorts of things to do. And it's cute. They came to the meetings, and we have the ops meetings, and they took notes, and they're involved.
Yeah, see, that's so important. So we're going to take a commercial break. We're going to be back, and again, thanks for watching Family Business World. This is it's just fascinating. I just love family businesses, so I can't wait to hear some more about the wonderful Eastern Janitorial Company. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Aloha! Joe Silva here with Kukua Technologies. I'm excited to see you on Tuesdays on Morning Coffee for our tech tips.
Let's face it, lawyers get a bad rap. I'm Erin Brucey, host of Legal Breakdown, where we dissect legal topics for the everyday viewer, with a mix of interesting guests to talk about current events and hot legal topics. Let's work together to make the law accessible and relevant to everyone. Catch us every week on RVN Television.
A stroke can be easy to detect. A loved one can't speak, perhaps they can't move. But there's another sign of a stroke that many of us can't see. It's called spatial neglect, and it can occur during or after a stroke, causing distorted visual movements. Fortunately, there's a solution by using optical prism technology during rehabilitation. If you or a loved one have experienced a stroke, ask your doctor about spatial neglect. Spatial neglect. See the whole picture at KesslerFoundation.org.
Welcome welcome back to Family Business World. We're having just a wonderful conversation. And so as we talk about the janitorial business, you've branched out. Are you looking to branch out to any other areas within this, or are you pretty satisfied with what you're doing now?
I think we're good with what we're doing right now.
Okay.
I think we don't want to get too far afield from our core business.
Spread too thin.
But we like anything that's not residential.
Right.
Anything commercial, industrial, schools, institutionals. We're pleased there.
Right.
Now it's just more of it, and then slowly broaden the geography and build in our management teams to hit our further areas. So that's kind of our growth path, I think.
No, I love it. And then before the break, we were talking about your kids, your son and daughter, and I just love getting them involved earlier. My daughter used to go to all my boring meetings, and she runs across some other women who say, I used to hate it that my dad took me to meeting, but that's the best thing ever happened because I learned skills. I learned to listen. I learned to interact with adults. And so that's
absolutely. No, you want our young people to be comfortable, like you said, interacting with adults, having a conversation, answering questions, being proud of what they're associated with, part of their heritage, and kind of that's their family identity. So no, I mean, it doesn't. It comes from within,
right?
And hopefully at the home. So absolutely.
So one of the things down the road. So my daughter just started Rutgers, so she's 18, and what she says, Dad. Well, you took me to all these things. I know how to interact. I've gotten more. I'm much more mature than my other friends. I can interact with adults, and I don't have the patience with the nonsense that a lot of these less mature kids have. So it's interesting. I'm sure your kids will deal with the same thing when they go to college.
No, and I remember hearing from my mother the same thing, where you're kind of 15 going on 30.
Right.
And just be patient, right?
Yeah.
I mean, have faith. It's going to all work out. Everyone's going to catch up. And,
absolutely.
I mean, that's the whole fun of life, is you don't know how the story's going to end.
Right.
Just keep turning the pages and appreciate every page that you're on.
Right.
She'll get there.
So one of the things I'm also doing, so I'm creating these entrepreneur zones really around the world to bring clusters of businesses, either in the same geographic area or partners. And so I love to connect, small businesses and family businesses. So one of the groups that I'm done work with there, it's called JSOL. A woman had asthma, and she has a small cleaning company, and developed these incredibly environmentally sensitive products that actually are. So I don't know if you guys have developed your own products or.
Absolutely. No, we green cleaning is important.
Yeah.
A lot of times you think if it's good for the environment, it doesn't really work. Well, there actually are a lot of products out there that we've been definitely at the forefront on. For example, something called hypochlorous acid. It's a real complicated word, but basically it's the same concept as saltwater pools.
Okay.
You can swim in a pool, not so bad.
Right.
But that also can be used to disinfect too. So no, if you look hard enough and tinker, and stay, you could find things that really do work.
Now, have you developed your own, or are you kind of using some that are on the market? Some of the environmentally friendly stuff on the market.
We work with more of the major guys.
Okay.
And we also work with the new innovative guys, but
Okay.
we haven't done our own.
Okay.
Everyone kind of stays in their lane.
Right.
We want to make sure it's safe and stable.
Well, I'll connect you with this company because
Sure.
it'd be worth talking to, and that they're just a wonderful.
Yeah,
Again,
we'd
I mean,
love
it's and that's part of the reason I do this show and I do Entrepreneur State of Mind. It's entrepreneurs there's so many. I have yet to meet somebody who's a real jerk, and they're all wonderful people, and you can do business together if you're not. So I'm really trying to encourage people to support other small businesses.
Yeah.
If the products are quality, I mean, they have to be quality products.
They have to work.
If they're top not quality, because there's so much, and then create this mindset of. And so we actually have a website called ezones.com that we're going to build, and the idea is when you have entrepreneurs. Instead of Jeff Bezos was like Princeton when I went to Princeton undergrad, and he was there, the founder of Amazon, but to do the same thing for small businesses. So when you go there, you can get it in a day, but you're supporting, businesses in the community, businesses that are employing people, and we've got to have external support for the things that you're doing.
I mean, that's one of the most rewarding things about being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Is you can support the causes that are important to you. There's no big pricing structure that you're stuck to.
Right.
So if there's a need or a cause or a local charity or something that you believe is necessary for the community, you can lean into it and help them out. So that's really cool that you're doing that, and keep us involved.
Yeah, absolutely, and I want to talk about it. And so one of the things that I've learned is, it has nothing to do with the people, but big is often bad. And that the bigger you are, just the bureaucratic structure doesn't allow you to be nimble. But you can be nimble, you can make decisions on the fly, you can do things, you can support community stuff and other things. So let me ask you, what kinds of community things are you involved with or the company involved with?
So it's funny you mentioned nimble and community involvement.
Right.
So during COVID, as I mentioned, we were very experienced with disinfecting, very comfortable, had lots of supplies, and were ready for a thing like COVID.
Right.
A friend in town in East Hanover, his police department, they weren't sure about, how do you sanitize the cars? Everyone's sharing cars.
Right.
So we said, you know what, we know how to do it. But there were lots of folks out there doing the wrong thing, charging way too much money, and the budgets weren't there.
Right.
So we said, all right, during the height of COVID, we said Monday mornings, 8 a.m. to noon, bring any car over, whether it's Department of Ed, facilities, police, you name it. Come on over, we'll sanitize it, we'll knock it out for you. Turn in one department, then two, then all of Mars County, then we had state cops, then we had all sorts of people coming.
Really?
To the point where we had to move to another parking lot in a church.
Oh, wow, my
that
goodness.
could handle all and it was great. And so we were really helping out folks who were
That is
nervous,
fantastic.
didn't have access, no cost. And what was really fun is my son's birthday was about that time, where everything was shut down. And he said, Dad, I'm going to bring some of my friends over. I want to see all the fire trucks and all the police cars.
Oh, nice.
And so his birthday was kind of watching us do all this neat stuff.
Very
and
cool.
it was like, Dad brought in, fire trucks for your birthday. So it was really cool.
So he was a hero with his friends, too. Say, hey, this is cool. I get to see the police and the fire folks.
All those frontline folks.
Yeah.
Anybody in the front line, we said, just come on over.
And you guys did that for free. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
we did it because we had the resources. We wanted to keep our people busy, and it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, we heard so many stories of you wouldn't believe what they charged for something that's so basic. So, it was like you said, being nimble, seeing a need, you can take care of it real quick.
But what really has bothered me is that so many of the businesses really just took advantage.
Yeah.
That, and even now we see some of these, and these are often big businesses, with the war in Ukraine, the supply chain, things that have nothing to do with the supply chain. Prices are going up everywhere, and and people have no shame about that.
Yeah.
And and I think a lot of people say, well, I'm trying to make up the money I lost during the pandemic, but you've got to put in family and small businesses, put the customer first.
Yeah.
That's the big difference. And unfortunately, there's not enough out there with people really letting you know they're going to put you first as a customer because you can't afford not to.
Absolutely.
You can't rip this person off because word of mouth is really what keeps you going.
Absolutely. Yep. No, there's lots of times where there's a situation where the work isn't at our standard, but it's considered acceptable, and we'll redo it.
Right.
And through situations, things happen. And I think that's what you learn in life too, is that sometimes out of your control.
Right.
But then something goes different than you expect.
Right.
And it's how you handle it.
Yeah. So do you? I've heard that there are a lot of folks who can't do the quality, but they really undercut the price. Have you suffered from that? Are there competitors that say, hey, we're going to do it for half their price, even though they really can't?
We've seen it.
Yeah.
And we've seen it. And, folks come and they come back.
Yeah.
And that's it. And the door's open. And we hope if it's, one of the things about us is that we don't really lock in long-term agreements, and we always allow everybody, if you need to get out of the contract, no problem.
Right.
We're not going to hold you to it. We're not going to take you to court. It's not the way we do business.
Good.
If we're not doing the work, or you think we're not pricing fair, please go find something, and you're welcome to come back. And then we found come and go. Because a lot of people have entered the market at the small level, thinking it's an easy way to do it, to do kind of to start a life. And start a business. There's a lot to it, though.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it, and
to do it right. To do it right. I always think about years ago. People may not remember. Bill Bradley was a pro basketball player, and people didn't realize he actually only had 1-year contracts. And so he actually, even though he wasn't one of the better players in the NBA, he was one of the highest paid players because he did what you did. He didn't take that long-term contract thinking that I'm going to make. And so there's a lot of wisdom to that.
Mr. Judge,
right?
Yeah. Mr. Judge just did it. He bet on himself.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. We're happy to bet on ourselves because we're going to deliver.
Yeah.
We're not afraid to be held accountable every single day.
Exactly. And that's, I wish there was more of that, but and you see these people lock in these long things, and then it's kind of half-hearted. We see it in sports all the time.
Sure.
So what's next? Well, you've created a great business. You've got a great market. Are you looking to expand geographically at all, or what?
I think geographically is the right thing for us. And again, slowly but steady. We've always built the infrastructure out first, and then went after it. So we've invested. I think that's our next move. We don't want to do too many things. got a lot of friends in the industry, you know, work together.
Yeah.
So I think we've got our kind of 3 focus areas,
right.
And now let's do more of it.
Excellent. Excellent. Good. And so as you are you aligning with, what are some of the other businesses you've aligned with? Like a lot of folks in your, they're things, hey, we don't want to get into this business. So do you give a lot of businesses, other kinds of business? What kind of businesses do you partner
anything
with?
from commercial painting to commercial roofing, masonry. We're always working with what we like to think are good actors, strong brands, and we help each other out. We introduce each other to other folks. So a lot of networking in that regard.
But see, that's one of the things, I bring that up because that's one of the things people don't really realize is that, that the sharing, the collaboration among businesses, the small businesses, it's not about squeezing out as much as you can. It's really about sharing and helping other folks and bringing the highest quality. Because you're not going to recommend somebody that's going to make you look bad, and when you do that going forward.
Yep. It allows you to solve a problem too.
Right.
So if something goes unexpected, you have a friend who can help you out.
Right.
And everyone kind of benefits in that way.
So also the other thing about family businesses that I love is that there are people who aren't family members who are really the glue, who've been there a long time. Do you have a number of people like operations officers and others? Do you have a number of people that are kind of the glue? Talk a little bit about those family, non-family members.
Absolutely. No, we have an operations person who is, him and his wife were also in the business.
Okay.
Like family.
Okay. How long were they with the company?
Going on about 8 years now.
Yeah.
And then also the controller, the finance folks. We know her mother's birthday.
Right. Right.
I mean, we're kind of, we're definitely same thing with sales and operations too.
Yeah.
Sales too. When someone leaves or goes, we're all coming together and kind of wishing them well.
Right.
When someone new comes, we're all kind of together, welcoming them into the company. So we're
and family, and I'm sure they're private stories of people having personal challenges on your team and other things, and you go out of your way. That's the other thing that people don't hear about, that you're actually helping people. People have paid funeral costs for other, for tragedies and other things. And so talk a little bit about that treating it as everybody as family.
I mean, for example, one person, he had gotten injured on the job, and we supported him all the way through. He came back, and he was a really important contributor to our company. And literally a month later, got hurt at home.
Wow.
And then couldn't walk because he hurt his Achilles.
Oh boy.
And I get it. It was like it was a huge loss.
Yeah.
And again, we supported him all the way through. As if he'd gotten injured on the job. It was a workman's comp thing. It didn't change the thing. We kept him all the way through. And so we didn't have him for about a year.
Wow.
But he was in touch. And as soon as he was ready to join us, he was back in the saddle like nothing had ever happened.
See, the challenge is those stories. I mean, every company I've talked to has those stories, and we need to let people know about those stories. It's not guaranteed. It's not in your contract. It's not in, but you give your heart and soul to the company will give you their heart and soul back. And this is the only business that seems to have that. And as I've been kind of working in government and nonprofits and big corporations and family businesses, there's no better company to work for than a family business. I will say that it's better than nonprofits and government and big corporations because they value that. And I want people to understand that.
Yeah, and there's no one size fits all.
Right.
So for example, someone who's an important contributor, they're an office worker, but they have a family member who might be at risk. We can create a virtual job for them because the value goes both ways. The trust is there, and that person can stay virtual for as long as they need to.
Wonderful.
Until they're ready, or whatever happens. So absolutely, that's the kind of it's neat. The small business, there's no one size fits all.
Right.
It's a bit of the wild, wild west, which is fun. I enjoy that.
Right. Makes it more interesting.
Yeah, it does. It allows you to kind of capture new markets and do new things. Like every day is exciting. Every day is a new day.
Well, Nick, I want to thank you so much. This is wonderful. We're at the end of time. This always goes by very quickly. Thanks for watching Family Business World. Nick is just another line of wonderful family businesses that are doing really well and doing a lot of good. So take care. We'll see you next week on Family Business World.